The corona pandemic has forced us greatly into conducting our tasks online, and education is one of the areas that has been strongly affected by this change. And especially for the cases like practical lab courses, it has become a big question how to track the progress of students and make sure that they do not lack necessary interaction. Before you tell us a little bit more about the challenges of conducting a practical online lab course, I would like to first ask you to tell us about yourself and your professional background.
So my name is Thomas Rose. I'm a professor for media processes at Technical University of Aachen. And I'm also a professor at the Bonn-Aachen International Information Academy. And in this master program, we are offering, lectures for students of media informatics. And part of this curriculum is also that we do have lab courses where students are doing practical work. And the idea of these lab courses is that groups up to 12 or 15 students work together in order to draft an idea and design a system, implement the system. And so the idea is that they practice these social skills you need for teamwork and collaboration. And in this regard, we were used to having meetings on a weekly basis. So typically at this BIT, Friday is a lab course day, and lab courses meet on Fridays. And that has been sort of say the communication hub and the coordination hub. And these meetings have not or had to be replaced by meetings in Zoom, and the students have to organize their internal meetings also in Zoom or Teams or whatsoever. And that has been the challenge, so to say, that students are interacting with each other in order to work on topics. And as far as we have been seen during the last winter term, this has somehow worked out pretty good. They cooperated, and our approach has been to push them a little bit by requesting, let's say, collaboration reports. And so basically we pushed them to report how they collaborated, and that has proven to be successful.
My name is Andrei Ionitsa. I am a research associate at the Fraunhofer Institute for Information Technology, FIT, in St. Augustine, Germany. I have a computer science master's degree from RWTH Aachen, and I am working in the cooperation systems group under Professor Wolfgang Prinz, and I'm researching blockchain networks, especially in energy and education sectors. For this lab course, I was an assistant together with Selin Sezer and Timo Meindrich and Katrin Hausmann, under the lead of Professor Rose.
As you have already mentioned it a little bit, Professor Rose, the practical lab courses are structured a little bit differently than the regular lectures, and they require much more interaction than a regular lecture. So can you go a little bit more into detail with the challenges that you faced because of running it online, and what kind of solutions exactly you find for these challenges?
Well, I guess one of the, let's say, important thing about these lab courses is that students work together, yeah? And this is on the one hand a social skill, on the other hand, it is essential for anyone who is working in computer science or media informatics, yeah? Because you do need joint work to accomplish, projects. And so these interactions among students is a thing that is decisive for the success. And typically we had these interactions controlled by weekly meetings, yeah, or by weekly meetings. It depends on the schedule you are imposing. And so our, let's say, concern before the beginning of the course has been how do we get students interact with each other? And because if you have a look at the reactions of students in the last summer term, as well as in this winter term, they say the classes are, more or less good. What is really missing is social interactions. So students miss social interactions, and these social interactions seem to be almost impossible in the web. Yeah, so the idea is how to get these social interactions inside our lab course for the collaboration. And we tried, first of all, we had a initial meeting, so to say, our kickoff meeting. And in this kickoff meeting, we really emphasized not just once, several times, the importance to cooperate. And even one of the colleagues directly approached students if a student turned off the camera. Yeah, so there was basically no way to hide in this course. Yeah, and I guess by doing this at the very beginning, I believe we managed to establish a culture of open communication. And then we just asked them, for instance, for joint projects, what have been the contributions of individuals? How do these things fit together? And that is basically a thing that pushed, at least in our opinion, students to work together. And that has been successful. And I believe the interesting question is now for us, in this upcoming summer event, or in this upcoming summer term, we still will have digital lectures, but then in the next winter term, we perhaps have a kind of a hybrid solution where we have digital lectures and live lectures, as well as our lab course will be, will consist of digital parts and live parts. And the question is, do we have things like this documentation of collaboration we might also want to transfer to physical presence? And I guess that's an open thing we have to learn in the next winter term, yeah, to manage these hybrid things, yeah, because I'm pretty sure that we will not get back to this classical organization we used to have, until a year ago or so.
From the point of view of the assistance of the lab course, there were some things that we had to make up for. We had to make up for the lack of physical presence and the lack of interaction that occurred during these physical sessions, just like Prof. Rose mentioned. So we had to. There was some organizational overheads for the assistance that started with organizing the video conference sessions properly, so that we each assistant gets to talk with a group. Even more assistants need to talk with each group, because the assistants have different expertise, and some groups, depending on the task that they had, needed expertise, needed assistance, technical assistance from more assistants. So starting with the video conference calls, going into requesting some progress reports after each week to assure that the students are collaborating, are interacting, are making progress, are feeling supported by us during this time. And we also had regular setups like GitHub repositories that would support the collaboration between them. So we wanted that not only we are getting in touch with them, but also they get in touch with each other, of course. And everybody is well connected and is well supported. We tried, for example, in the video conference sessions, we tried to interact so that the sharing of the screens is exactly like sharing their screens on a projector in the lecture hall, so that all these interactions that occur on the physical setting would be replicated online, and no question will remain unanswered.
I wanted to ask a little bit about the tracking of the progress of students, but you have already mentioned the progress reports. What were the contents of these progress reports? Can you tell us a little bit more about it?
Yeah, sure. The progress reports involved the assigning of tasks among members, and involved also the breaking down of tasks. The big tasks that they were assigned at the beginning, or yeah, at the beginning of each project. They had the project reports first involved or were comprised of this breaking down of tasks and assigning of tasks to each student. And as each week progressed during those projects, they had to report what they did achieve during that week, these partial tasks. Were they completed? If not, what were the challenges that they had, and where do they need help? So it kept track of their progress. Are they doing into completing the project? And of course, if you think about it, it's the same thing that we would in a physical setting. The assistants would ask the students at each session, what did you achieve? Did you achieve what you wanted in your timeline that you set up at the beginning? And if you had any challenges, what were the challenges? And having these progress reports mandatory was a good measure of keeping them in check, keeping them always supported by us and supervised.
Perhaps I can extend this a little bit. Yeah. Our lab courses follow, a rather standardized storyboard. Yeah. So to start with, we have some kind of lecture parts. Yeah. And then we have what we call small projects to practice on these new things. Yeah. I believe this is one way also to track progress, yeah, because the students have to report on a weekly basis what they have produced with regard to the, for instance, new methods they have learned. We also have what we call a midterm examination, and that was an interesting thing this year because we have to do the examinations online. There's no written examination, so that has also been another experience, yeah. And then we had these progress reports as already presented in detail by Andre and Jonita. I believe the question is, why did we, let's say, introduce these progress reports? And in a physical presence, yeah, so the students meet at our lecture rooms, yeah, and then they meet in groups, yeah, and then the supervisors go from group to group, yeah, they listen to the groups, they talk with the groups, yeah, and this element is missing in a digital course, yeah, and somehow if you have a physical presence, by nature, you have a kind of a control of the students, yeah, you can give them advice, yeah, and this is missing, yeah, and if you're transferring this one to a Zoom meeting, that will not really work, yeah, because you can't interact with the students in a Zoom room, yeah, as you do in a physical present. And that has been the reason why we have been thinking about these progress reports.
Did you observe any issues with respect to the adaptation by the students? But especially I would like to ask a little bit about the isolated learners.
I think with every group, with every large group, you have different types of personalities, extrovert, introvert. So you might have people that are more quiet and are not so do not speak up so easily, and might be in this category of isolated learners. We were in luck of actually having everybody more or less very eager to collaborate. But of course, we also took these measures of integrating the project support very much with video calls and progress reports, and also all these little measures that Professor Jose mentioned with shutting on their camera with starting their cameras every time they had their cameras turned off, and incentivizing them to turn their cameras on. By the fact that we distributed them in different groups, we also created these group cohesion that they talk to each other more, and one person wasn't in one group all the time, so they got different group mates, so they had the opportunity of interacting with different students, and I think nobody was left behind with all the announcements that we sent, not very frequent, but also not too less of them. Everybody was kept in touch with what is up, what is the next deadline, next video conference. So I think everybody in the course can agree that that all the students showed quite a good active participation in the course, and nobody was left behind in this case.
So in my opinion, the student in general appreciate a recording of the classes, be it pre-recorded or be it a live recording, yeah, but nevertheless they somehow insist on this recording, because that gives them the freedom to follow the class at any time they want, yeah. Well, shy students, or what you call isolated students, it's you know, basically hard to tell about if you have this one-to-many presentation, because everyone is silent, yeah, and only very few students are raising their hands and raise a question. Yeah, so that is totally different to having a live class, because in a live class you are looking at student faces and you know that basically your explanation was not sufficient, or your explanation was strange, yeah. And this thing is really missing if you are, you know, explaining it in the net. And also we tried these Q&A sessions, yeah. So you have a pre-recorded lecture, and then you have a, let's say, Q&A session, and the number of questions is rather low. Perhaps that the student didn't watch the movie, or they, you know, don't have any questions. You know, I cannot tell you that. What I experienced is a change in the tutorials that accompany the classes. So I decided to have a session of, or let's say a sequence of tutorials, and the tutorials had, you know, selected topic of the lecture. And then the students had to present their solutions, because I believe 2/3 of these assignments have been do a presentation on this topic or that topic. And I just forced every group to present. And this has, let's say, these tutorials have been really lively, you know, courses, yeah, because they presented interesting ideas. Then students discussed about these ideas, yeah, and that was an interesting experience. You get these students interact if they have to present their ideas, yeah, and by the end of the class, the students were somehow, you know, telling me, well, your tutorial has been basically an additional class. It has not been a direct supporting class for training for the examination, so to say, yeah. But you know, what price to pay for that, yeah. But I guess if you give them the chance to present their ideas, then you have a lively, I guess, course. And that's perhaps the thing that will be, you know, transferred also after these Corona classes, yeah. But we will see how this works, yeah. So I'm pretty sure we will have lots of recordings in the near future, and we will have more perhaps experience reports from, you know, experts, yeah. So why not incorporate an hour presentation of someone who is, for instance, running projects in electronic business and the like. It gives you basically a whole bunch of new opportunities to improve the teaching.
I also wanted to ask a little bit about your opinion, if you think that these online lab courses can also continue as an alternative to in-place ones.
My personal opinion is that they are not a true alternative, because you need these face-to-face for social, contacts, for social collaboration. And I guess for these lab courses, we certainly do need this social interaction. For classes, yeah, where you have this one-to-many, let's say, distribution of content, perhaps we can think about using more digital lectures, yeah. But the lab course, I would somehow, insist on having these social contacts. Or you do or you are really doing different lab courses, that you are doing lab courses, for instance, across different universities. That would also be an interesting exercise, yeah. That you do, for instance, European lab courses with the University of Great Britain and Italy, or to have a mixed culture in order to reflect this globalization. But I guess that is a different topic, yeah, and I guess that will only be an add-on on the existing curricula. But the idea sounds somehow attractive.
Well, I don't have that much experience with assisting courses, but I think what we can gather from this lab course that we conducted is that we proved that it's possible to hold a lab course online, and if we would need to hold further lab courses, we would be able to do that, and that is a very, very positive sign. I think holding such an online lab course is definitely tied with overhead in organization, towards the students, and also towards the assistants themselves, because the assistants also need to coordinate themselves and share their experiences with some groups, some groups of students that they have advised. And this places a lot of overhead and more hours spent with the course than would be usual. I think every assistant involved spent more time than they had planned, and that is usually the case with this course. Also because it was new, but next time it will be easier because we already the setup in place, but all these additional organizational measures added to the workload. But otherwise, it's definitely possible. But I would also go for a traditional physical online course, and only go for an online course if it's necessary.
I would like to thank you very much for your input and for your time.
You are welcome.
Happy to contribute. Thank you.